What is up, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest installment of the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast here on the Smark Out Moment channel. I'm your host, as always, Callum Wiggins, and joining me, as always, is Robert DeFelice.
Callum, this is a rough one on the journey because we're starting two angles that I just don't care for.
Yeah, this is going to be a real mixed bag. Again, not to bury the lead too much, but there's some really good stuff on this show and some really terrible stuff on this show.
Really terrible stuff.
Yeah, this is some of the worst stuff that we've seen on SmackDown in the entire journey so far, but there's also some good stuff to talk about as well, so it's not going to be all doom and gloom. And even if it is doom and gloom, we'll try and make it as funny and entertaining as possible. So obviously we invite everyone who's watching us here on YouTube to leave a like, drop a comment below. If you want to give us a little applause or become a member, there's obviously buttons on the video above the description where you can do all that great stuff. If you're listening to us through any of the other podcast platforms, then leave us a rating or any other thing that you can do to show your support for us. If you're starting the podcast from here and you want to go back all the way back to episode 1 and listen to it the whole way through, then check out our playlist that is on the Smark Out Moment channel. And there is a link in the description to this particular episode of SmackDown if you did not watch it in advance of us talking about it. So you can pause this, check out SmackDown, and then come back and tell us all your thoughts in the comments below. So
yes, let's all talk about how much we hate Tracy. I'm going right there. I hate it.
Well, before we get into SmackDown, let's do our usual thing of talking about some news and events. So, first news obviously pick up news from the Observers. According to the Observer, at this point in time, attendances in WWE had dropped from 8,595 fans in March, so prior to the brand extension, around about just prior to WrestleMania 18, to an average of 4,170 fans in September. So it marks the lowest fan attendance in WWE at this point since December 1996.
That's bad.
Yeah, very. We reinforced. I know we reinforced this point a lot, but it's important to show that, especially in this context, how quickly the decline for WWE's popularity was from the peak of the Attitude Era and WrestleMania 17 all the way to this point.
Yeah, and it's funny because the decline continues, and right now, if you look at their numbers, then right now they'd be astronomically great.
Yeah,
but
it was the idea that it goes through. It's not been. There's been a sustained decline, obviously, but it's always come from a little bit of. It goes really quickly and then it stabilizes, then goes really quickly down and then stabilizes again. Because there was a while between the mid 2010s until about 2018 where ratings were pretty much the same week to week, year to year, and then it's been this past year and a half, 2 years where it's reached new depths essentially.
Yep. And over here, it's showing that wrestling isn't as over as we thought it was, or at least as they thought it was. The decline was real, and I think we are 4 or 5 months without Rock. Well, no, we're only a couple months without Rock, but a few months without Austin, and the writing's on the wall that the business is changing.
Yep, there's no Austin at the moment, no Rock, no Hogan even as well, so a lot of their top names are just AWOL at the moment. And that's, even though we've spoken about how great some of the episodes of SmackDown have been, quality-wise, they just don't have the star power at the moment.
I think it also, that hindsight, because we talk about it all the time. People like to say Eddie Guerrero is the greatest wrestler ever, but when he was alive, that was not the sentiment. You know what I mean? And
no, I think he's someone that you really credit their in-ring work. He's someone, obviously, you quote in the same breath as someone like a Chris Benoit before all that stuff happened. Even, I'd say you'd put Kurt Angle in that bracket, and Rey Mysterio and Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, those sort of people who you have a huge amount of respect and admiration for their in-ring work, which probably exceeds anybody else on the roster at that moment in time. But they're not stars.
And I mean, Rey is far from being a world champion at this point. Kurt Angle, we love Kurt, but I mean, look at what WWE did to him upon returning. they still don't see the value in Kurt Angle in a lot of ways.
No, I mean, a lot of these people could have potentially been positioned as stars, but at the same time, there's a reason why someone like John Cena elevated himself to a completely different status despite not being the in-ring worker that all these other guys were.
Right.
It's just an intangible quality that certain wrestlers have that others don't. And that's just the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, that's just the business.
So, other news, let's talk a little bit advertising. So, we've obviously known for a long time, and this is almost similarly to the ratings, is the fact that wrestling does not attract very high advertising rates.
Never has, never will.
The reason for that being is that the belief that because wrestling appeals to hicks and people that don't really have a huge amount of capital available, so they're not going to spend a huge amount of money on the stuff that are being shielded by advertisers.
And we all wish we could say that they're wrong, but they're not.
So a New York Post article at this point suggested that SmackDown, which was doing pretty good, obviously the numbers were in decline across the entire thing, but they're still doing pretty good numbers, like in the fours range, was only attracted $30,000 for a 30-second ad slot between their show, which placed them in the bottom 5 of ad rates for across all networks for people in like their time slot. So,
wow.
Yeah, even though they were doing markedly still better numbers than most other channels in their area. By comparison, a 30-second ad on Friends would cost a company $456,000.
Yeah, that
Now
I
that is
believe.
Friends. That's obviously Friends, so it's a very different thing. But I think Friends was getting at this point in time about 2 or 3 times the rating number that SmackDown was getting, and yet their ad rates are nearly 15 times greater.
And a lot of people, if you're younger and you're listening, you may be surprised by this because Friends has obviously been in syndication for well over 10 years at this point. I know the perception of Friends, much like the perception of 2002 WWE, has changed greatly, but Friends was a smash hit, the likes of which have not been seen before and have not been seen since. So it was the biggest show at the time.
So that's a little bit of just news in the terms of ratings and advertising side of things. The Nicole Bass lawsuit that we spoke about a couple of episodes ago, I don't know how long exactly it was, but that was thrown out of court. Nicole Bass's claims were rejected, and WWE won that battle. So one more win for the good guys.
Did she pass?
Yeah, she's no longer with us.
Oh well, Nicole Bass is just one of those things that I'm surprised WWE didn't look at Nicole Bass and say we got to do more with her, but also maybe there was a legitimate screw up there, and that's why they quickly swept her under the rug, which is a
So
terrible thing to do, but it's WWE.
the most interesting aspect of the trial was her accusations against Triple H, which was that Triple H would frequently enter the women's locker room without any sort of like permission or something like that, and would, lurk around, that sort of thing.
Dare I
Which,
say that's immaturity?
it's a claim that he vehemently denied, and even though he said that he would frequent the women's locker room, it was because he was dating China at the time, and he would always check to see if the women were decent before he would go into the women's locker room. So it's essentially his word against her
Wow.
in that regard. So no
You
accusations
know,
either way.
Hunter, I don't get too lost in the weeds here, but Hunter is one of those people who might have a harder time than Vince has in these situations later on down the line. I
Yeah.
genuinely believe that.
Well, yeah, I think they both have issues. It's the idea that Triple H has been around at a time where that sort of stuff can be found out a lot easier, I guess.
Right. But I do think one day you'll hear more. And not that I'm saying anything negative about Triple H, it's just it was the business. Again, shitty explanation, but it is the way it is. And I think one day that might come back to haunt him.
Let's talk about two more bit more fun stories. So, what do you think of when I say the name Bob Sapp?
MMA and a very strange run in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
So they've started just reporting about him a little bit now because he's becoming a huge deal in Japan. He's not yet like featured for New Japan just yet, but he'll be there very soon. But the big talk was the fact that Bob Sapp, in only his third kickboxing match in less than 1 year of training, defeated the most decorated heavyweight kickboxer in history.
Huh.
So
He was good. I mean, but he was good in a weird time where like people thought Tank Abbott was good. You know what I mean? Just because he could beat some ass.
yeah, but I think there was some intangible quality to Bob Sapp, which even though this is a dark age for New Japan that we've discussed about, especially on the 2001 Wrestling Odyssey, which you can obviously go back and check on the Smark Out Moment channel. But yeah, I think Bob Sapp had some element of charisma and a almost Godzilla-like presence to him, which made him somewhat worthwhile as being a top guy in the company. Even if he couldn't work that well. Even if he couldn't work that well. But then again, Goldberg couldn't work that well when he was a huge star.
Right. Like this was still an era where you didn't need to work that well. You know?
Yeah. And one more funny story. Hulk Hogan.
Oh
So
no.
he's being sued at this point in time over a boat that he sold on eBay for $65,000.
Really? How'd this one end up?
I didn't actually look further ahead to see it. Maybe we'll find out in the observers going forward. But essentially, it was just a thing about the person that bought the boat off Hogan saying that the condition of it was not of the quality that he said in the ad. But I just thought it's quite funny. Just like Hogan's now, not out of WWE, but he's just sitting at home at this point in time. And
like
he's just selling boats on eBay, just selling boats on eBay and getting sued over it as well. So it's just, yeah.
You know, Warrior did a lot of like shady selling on eBay. I'm surprised Hogan never got in that industry of like, I'll buy this replica world title and say that it was one that I actually owned.
Maybe Hogan's a little bit smarter than that side of things.
Amazing. You know, score one for Hogan.
Yeah. Maybe I mean he's smart in that regard. He's not smart enough to spot when a phone is being recorded or something like that.
No, he's not.
So that's it for the news side of things. So let's get into the brass tacks of the ratings war between SmackDown and Raw. SmackDown, as per usual, has won the week again. So this is for the 10th of the 10th episode of SmackDown. Scored a 4.14 rating. Compared to Raw's for the 7th of October, scored a 3.8. So it was a lot closer than it has been. Maybe that was partly due to the fact that Raw's episode this week was the very well remembered Raw Roulette.
Yeah. Oh, I got this for this week. I wish we were covering Raw, not because their storyline was any better, but it's certainly more memorable and worth talking about.
Yeah, so this was the first iteration of it. Bischoff would return it basically every time they would come to Las Vegas in the future on Raw. But this was a wheel of gimmicks, essentially. So you spun the wheel, and that would determine what would the stipulation of your match would be. So there were just tons and tons on there. I'll just go through a rundown, essentially, of what the matches were, because they all had special gimmicks attached to them, so we might as well try and discuss them. Booker T versus Big Show in a steel cage match.
Kind of lame, and not a single memory comes to mind.
It was won by Booker. Booker was then attacked by Chris Jericho after the match, busted open against the steel cage. Essentially, the reason for that was because Jericho didn't like the fact that Booker T called him a sucker.
I don't know why I enjoy that.
Triple H versus D'Lo Brown in a blindfold match.
I remember this very well because it's Triple H in a blindfold match with D'Lo Brown.
Yeah, I didn't know D'Lo Brown was still. I mean, we saw him just backstage at Unforgiven, in that silly skit with Billy Kidman and the Young and the Restless actor. Yeah. But yeah, I just didn't know he was actually working at this point for WWE.
This is a good chance to put Hunter in a blindfold match. Again, Triple H just trying to get every silly 80s trope out of his system. for some reason.
Goldust versus William Regal in a Las Vegas Showgirls match.
Amazing.
Yeah, this is a great Regal comedy, as you'd expect.
Dustin can do this easy, and Regal should have been a a worldwide television star. I mean, I know WWE is technically that, but he should have been bigger.
Trish Stratus versus Stacy Keibler in a bra and panties paddle on a pole match.
Boy, that's a hat on a hat.
Yeah, so essentially the gimmick of this one was, it was for the Women's Championship, by the way. It was a bra and panties match, and whoever won the bra and panties match got to spank the other one with a paddle that was hanging from a pole in the ring.
Now, they had a paddle on a pole match, I believe, the year prior during the Alliance stuff. So, again, we're just enjoying the divas as they were portrayed at this point, and it is what it is. But kudos to Trish.
Al Snow versus Test in a Las Vegas street fight.
Wow, that's not what I expected to hear.
I mean, who won that?
I assume Test.
No, Al Snow won it. Because
Why?
they're currently going through a losing streak with Test, so he can turn babyface.
Oh, that's right. Testicles, yes.
Yeah. Jerry Lawler versus Stevie Richards in a Legal in Nevada match. Do you know what that means?
No.
So a Legal in Nevada match means that the winner would get to spend the night with Godfather's hoes, because prostitution is legal in Nevada.
Well, my God, we've certainly come a long way from the right to censor. What happened, Stevie?
Yeah. So that's the reason why the main event wasn't called by Jerry Lawler. It was called Alone by JR. And the main event was the match that was, in 2003, voted as the Raw's greatest match of the decade. TLC match for the Tag Team Championships.
That is, well, that other thing about it being the greatest match of the decade for Raw is absolute
That's what it was voted.
bullshit.
It was voted as that. I think it was up against, if I remember correctly, because I watched it on like a 2003 DVD they did of Raw's 10th anniversary. So I think the other matches were Jeff Hardy versus Undertaker.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember all the other ones. I think one of them was Austin against Kane from '98.
What a weird,
And one of them was Foley against, it was Cactus Jack against Triple H, I believe, in that early street fight they had in Cactus Jack's debut match.
That probably would have gotten my vote.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% sure about all those ones. I definitely know about the two ladder matches that were in it, and maybe it was recency bias probably that. Yeah.
You know, I get it. I'm just saying it's so funny how things like that go, where you're like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever, and I think nowadays not a lot of people even remember that match.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was Kane who was working solo because the Hurricane had been taken out by Triple H earlier in the night. Defended the tag titles successfully against Chris Jericho and Christian, Bubba Ray and Spike Dudley, and RVD and Jeff Hardy.
So this was at least unique in the regards that Bischoff went to Bubba, Jeff, and Christian and said, hey, can't do TLC without you, but you don't have your partners. Go pick people. And Jeff picked RVD pretty easily. Jericho got picked by Christian easily, and Bubba wanted Tommy Dreamer, and Spike did the whole run to the litter gimmick where he got sad because he's like, well, I've seen you and Devon in TLC and I want to do it. So they pick Spike, and poor Bubba gets concussed.
I'm just double checking because I'm patting myself on the back metaphorically because I actually managed to remember all of the matches.
You sure did. I'm looking as well.
I don't know how I did that really. I just like those four things. Just again, it's the zenith of wrestling fanhood as a kid. You remember that stuff more vividly than anything else, really. I can't remember what happened on Raw 2 weeks ago, but I can remember what happened in a 2003 stupid award ceremony they did.
Wow, it's funny. They give you this is also a bonus feature on the DVD. They gave you that match and Undertaker versus Damien Demento. So
Yeah, the very first Raw main event.
Highs and lows.
And then but the other aspect of that was that after the match with Kane winning we got onto arguably something that was even worse than the storylines that we're going to be talking about on SmackDown here,
But
which
somehow
was
not, because it's at least worth discussing.
which was Triple H coming out onto the stage, cutting a promo on Kane, calling him a murderer because of the death of a woman called Katie Vick. So prepare for. I mean, next week we're going to get into the real heart or brains of the matter, as it were.
God.
So we'll talk about it a bit more then. But yeah, suffice to say, this is one of the worst angles that WWE has ever conceived of.
For you WCW fans out there, do you know that this was supposed to lead to the debut and major push of Robert Vick, also known as Sick Boy in Raven's Flock?
Oh my god!
Just so we know what we're working with here.
Well, at least they had a plan. It seemed to be like what was the? There was no point otherwise. It was just like, okay, what's the point of me just saying that she's murderer, like he's a murderer and he killed this woman? Like what's the value of bringing that up other than just for shock value? If they actually had a storyline of like, okay, her brother is going to come and seek revenge against Kane, maybe cost him the match against Triple H and go on with it, then maybe there was something to it, but no.
Yeah, I mean, at least there is something there, but my God.
Yeah.
Kane, you're a murderer. Awful.
Well, that's what we're always up to. So let's move on to this episode of SmackDown. Can't hold it off any longer.
We tried.
October 10th, 2002 from the America West Arena in Phoenix, Arizona. So the show starts off with a recap of the Undertaker Matt Hardy match from last week, with Brock Lesnar breaking the Undertaker's hand, and the announcement that the Hell in a Cell match would still be it will be a Hell in a Cell match. They'll be fighting at No Mercy. We then cut to Undertaker in his natural habitat, the arena parking lot, where he just stalks around and waits for someone to beat up.
Yeah, that's very Undertaker 2001, 2002.
So while he's waiting, Matt Hardy comes out to the ring, who Michael Cole describes as a first-class jackass in his commentary. They discuss Hardy's special relationship with Lesnar and Heyman. Matt says times are great for him and Mattitude, and he's been rolling in fan mail ever since he defeated The Undertaker for a second time.
Yeah.
Don't know whether I believe that or not. He's getting a really good heel reaction, though. That's something to be said. He's really, getting a lot of heat.
You know, Matt frequented message boards, though. I'm sure he was getting a lot of positive responses.
Yeah, I'm sure. There was audible "We want Jeff" chants, because that's kind of been the thing with him now, is that Jeff's the popular babyface brother.
Wish they would have done that match. Like, this era Jeff, as he's being built up, versus this era Matt, would have been like a really good cruiserweight title match or something.
Matt shows footage of his win, which only shows the pin over The Undertaker and not what Brock Lesnar did to The Undertaker to lead to that pin.
Well, yeah, that's just good storytelling.
Yeah, it's exactly what happened. Nothing was cut out at all. So Undertaker gets pissed off and he starts marching to the ring while Matt's back is turned to the Titantron. When Matt turns around and sees The Undertaker talking, he does the most brilliant thing, which is he threatens every word that he's saying is a threat to The Undertaker, but he's screaming at the top of his lungs because he's so terrified. It was brilliant. I loved every second.
Matt is very good. Matt is one of the better character performers.
So Undertaker gets in the ring and Matt immediately attacks him with the microphone repeatedly, and he hits his cast on the turnbuckle, but Undertaker then fires back with some really shitty left hands.
Yeah, best pure striker, baby.
Yeah. Followed by a blow with the cast. So they're brawling at ringside. Undertaker's busted Matt Hardy open with repeated shots to the head with the cast. But Matt Hardy is fighting back. Matt Hardy is not it's not being a complete burial by the Undertaker. Matt is fighting back. He hits a low blow at one point, attacks Undertaker until the referees break it up. And then Undertaker uses the fact that the referees are stopping Matt Hardy beating him up to start attacking Matt Hardy again.
Oh, he's a babyface. Don't you know?
Yeah.
Well, what a babyface maneuver that is.
Matt eventually hits Undertaker in the chair with a back, but Undertaker then punches through the chair shot and goes after Matt again. I noticed at this point that Undertaker's cast had no pain written on it
Yeah.
because why not?
I Whenever we get too much Mark Calloway in the Undertaker, it's just not good.
So Taker then goes to punch Matt Hardy with his cast, but Matt moves and Taker punches the ring post, so injuring his hand again, and Matt uses this to make his escape. This was an awesome brawl.
Yeah. Total logical story too. Matt being delusional to the point where he's fighting back, and Undertaker kind of giving him a little something, but also making sure to say, "Hey, listen, nobody's tougher than me," and I enjoyed this. You
I
would
mean,
not
yeah,
see this today.
no, this brawl was so good that I was upset at the end of it that it's not Undertaker versus Matt Hardy at the pay per view.
Well,
Obviously, we know what, but if you'd have just like, if you put yourself into the context of this, that you've just seen that disappointing Brock Lesnar Undertaker match at Unforgiven. Obviously, in the benefit of hindsight, we know how good that Hell in a Cell match ends up being. But at the time, I would have been like, why isn't he fighting Matt Hardy instead? This is really
no,
good.
I
Matt
I
Hardy can
get
win.
it, and it shows that both men are doing their jobs. You want to see the Undertaker beat Matt Hardy.
I mean, I like to have seen it be a triple threat. I think Matt Hardy could have just been the other guy in a WWE Championship match. That'd be.
I wonder if they ever ran that match like at a house show or something.
I'm sure they did plenty of Undertaker and Hardy. I don't know if they ended. They might have done something where it's Undertaker Hardy or Undertaker Brock Lesnar, Matt Hardy gets involved and then he gets beaten up by both guys at the end of it.
Yeah.
So we move over to the first official match of the night, even though we've seen something pretty physical to start with, but it's Eddie Guerrero versus Rikishi. So this is kind of a follow-up from the previous week where Eddie Guerrero and Chavo defeated Rikishi and Mark Henry to progress in the Tag Team Championship tournament. So they're giving it a one-on-one match instead.
Lots of play for Rikishi. I know we spoke about it, when we first started the show about how he would be one of the people working most throughout this journey, but lots of Rikishi airtime here, and when I see it, I just don't get it because I would think, they could have done more with him then.
Yeah, this is the sort of time where if there was a United States Championship, he'd be holding it at least once, if not multiple times.
Right.
So as Rikishi makes his entrance, they cut to Undertaker screaming in agony in the trainer's room, saying that they'll need to go to the hospital to get more x-rays to check there hasn't been any further damage done to the wrist.
Yeah. I mean, Undertaker, as we've said the past couple of weeks, sells very well. It's just everything else about this that I don't like.
So it's another classic big man, little man match where Rikishi is the dominant, powerful babyface against the conniving, crafty heel of Eddie Guerrero. So at this point in time, you have like Chavo's getting a few cheap shots from the outside while Eddie has the referee distracted at this point in time. They do the spot again where Eddie goes for the sunset flip, which you never do against Rikishi. And they did it again where we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago where Rikishi sat down and Eddie missed him by about an inch.
Either that's just good timing by Guerrero, wanting
it's a lot of
to
trust.
make
A lot of trust between the two.
A lot of trust.
Rikishi hits one-handed spine buster, but then Eddie dodges the corner splash, hits a low drop kick, and then nails a helo.
Yep.
Rikishi avoids the frog splash, tosses Eddie really far with a Samoan drop. Like Eddie goes almost halfway across the ring off that Samoan drop.
Working boots.
Then we get into a little bit of comedy, where Chavo attempts to stop Rikishi delivering the stink face to Eddie. So he then brings Chavo into the ring. He gets splashed in with Eddie in the corner, and then Rikishi delivers a double stink face.
Yep. And I'm sure Eddie Guerrero will still be mad about this for another week.
But the crowd goes absolutely crazy about this. So, like, again, it's comedy stuff, but it's so over with the crowd. Then why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
This basically becomes a 2-on-1 handicap match now as Rikishi. This is where it gets a little bit overblown for me, where Chavo and Eddie both try and bring chairs into the ring. And then Rikishi stops Eddie using a chair, and then he stops Chavo using a chair, and then Eddie hits him with a chair, and then he applies the lasso from El Paso and gets the victory. It's just, like, why, at this point, why is the referee not disqualifying Los Guerreros?
Do you realize? And this is how good both of these men are. All of that took place in less than 5 minutes.
I know. Yeah, this. I feel like when describing it, it feels like it's gonna be like this big 10-minute match. No, it was like really pretty short in all
That's
things
how you
considered.
work. Like, dude, they fit a lot of stuff in less than 5 minutes.
But yeah, it was a good, just fun, uh, I guess non-offensive match.
Yeah.
What you expect from two veterans like this?
And I mean, as good as you can get two guys who are able to work the comedy and still kind of keep it serious, even though there's nothing serious about a stink face.
Mm.
You know,
It's
very
deadly
good
serious.
stuff.
It's deadly serious.
Oh yes, the ass of life. I forget. I'm sorry.
So we have backstage, Tori's deciding what lingerie she's going to wear tonight, which I feel like she's leaving it a little bit to the last minute.
Yeah,
She's had a whole week.
but we also see world champions arrive an hour and a half into the show sometimes, so par for the course.
So essentially, she's been challenged following the bikini contest last week. She's been challenged by Dawn Marie to a lingerie match, lingerie contest, should I say? Because it's not really a match; it's just a who looks better in their lingerie competition.
Yeah, and thankfully not awkwardly judged by Al Wilson.
No, but we do see Al Wilson, so she picks up one of the outfits and then she's interrupted by Al. Al says that he wanted to surprise her just by showing up. So Tori says there's something in their locker room she wanted to show him. So they head out, then just head off away.
Yeah, that's slightly odd given the context, but good for Al. Al was a good father.
So we now cut to Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit staring each other down in Stephanie McMahon's office. Stephanie reiterates what she said last week, which was that she needs these two to get along as partners to make this tag team tournament the most legitimate it can be because they're the two best athletes that SmackDown has to offer.
I appreciate that logic.
I appreciate that logic. I don't appreciate the logic, again, which I reiterate from last week, that she will suspend both of them if there's any physicality between the two of them. I know they're trying to say that this tournament is important and she wants them to get along to be a great team, but why would you suspend who you've just proclaimed as the two best athletes on your program for a year just because they don't like each other and you're forcing them to tag team together?
Again, she's a McMahon. Bodies are expendable.
So Angle says that he's thrilled to be in the tournament and will win it no matter who his partner is, even if he's missing both teeth and brain cells. That's a little bit on the nose. Like,
why you gotta go right there, pal? Like, oof.
Benoit says that Angle's still carrying some bitterness after Unforgiven. Says that Angle might be an Olympic champion, but he's never been a tag team champion, so he should follow Benoit's lead.
Yep.
So I guess that's a good point.
Makes perfect sense.
Stephanie excuses them, but then they get into an argument about who gets to leave first. So obviously Angle says that Benoit should go first, Benoit says that Angle should go first, and then they just stand there waiting for each other to make the first move.
Yeah, I mean, great chemistry between these two. This is maybe Benoit at his best from a microphone standpoint, and I wish Kurt Angle had made that brain cells comment, but what can you do?
So we cut to Funaki backstage with a bandage over his eye to live up to his beating that he received from Brock Lesnar a couple of weeks back.
Very nice, and he's SmackDown's number one announcer.
Yeah. So he interviews Rey Mysterio about him teaming with Edge tonight against Tajiri and Jamie Noble.
Yeah, that does not happen. But
yeah, so Mysterio cuts a fiery promo until he's groped from behind by Nidia. They have like this seemingly flirty conversation in Spanish, which then turned into a bit more accusatory and angry conversation in Spanish.
Yeah, I mean,
but none of it is in English, so we have no idea what they say.
I mean, Rey is a lucky man. We talked about this before. Nidia was very good at her role here.
So Nidia storms off. She runs into Noble, saying that she's just been punked out by Mysterio. She starts storming away, but Noble says that she should show him some respect because he's the Cruiserweight champion. He shouldn't be talked to like this. So they argue. Security tries to interject. Nidia then hits Noble's water bottle into the security guard, and then security ejects both of them from the arena.
Wow. When does security have that much power?
Yeah. So a guy who's booked for the show and booked to be part of this illustrious tag team championship tournament is just thrown out of the building because he got a bit of water thrown on
Yeah,
him.
this is a bit of reality, but awkward spot.
So we move on again. It's a lot of talking at this point in time. There's not really many, not as much matches in
There's
between
4
this stuff.
matches on the show.
Yeah. So Eddie and Chavo wait outside the SmackDown GM office, gloating about their win over Rikishi and how they're going to win the tag titles. Benoit leaves, so he's obviously was the one first to blink in that showdown with Angle. And Eddie and Chavo try and gloat with him, but Benoit's not in the mood. Eddie asks if he's in trouble with the principal. So
Yeah.
again, it's a good line between essentially some like high school buddies. And then Chavo, go ahead.
I do enjoy the fact that Benoit seemingly keeps finding himself with the Guerreros, and it's almost like at any point they could have put 3 of them together.
So then Chavo starts sowing a few seeds by saying that he hears that Angle is looking to take a year off because he wants time off to prepare for the next Olympics.
I like that.
Now, there were rumors circulating at the time, or there have been stuff talking about potentially Angle making a run for the 2004 Olympic Games. Essentially, it was the same rumor that followed him, which he didn't take at all seriously until I believe it was 2012. Was the one?
Wasn't there also rumors that he would try to do like the UFC stuff? I feel like Kurt
Yeah.
Angle's just a guy who has the legitimacy, so he's got that easy like I can do this, but nothing ever comes of it.
They say that Benoit should be careful. If Angle is going down already, he might take Benoit with him. Angle then walks out of the office. He calls Eddie Guerrero a home slice.
Yeah, Kurt Angle's great.
And then they leave. They skulk away. Angle then asks Benoit if they were talking about him. Angle says that he'll beat that information out of Benoit. And Benoit says they'd like to see him try. And so they're clearly not getting along. But it's time for their first match in the Tag Team Championship Tournament, which is Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit versus John Cena and Billy Kidman.
John Cena here got his gear out of like cutting down some old Kona Crush gear. What is with John Cena and the purple and yellow, or purple and orange?
Well, let's say this attire doesn't last too much longer. Yeah, this attire doesn't last too much longer.
Yeah,
because this match is pivotal in a certain extent. But
this may be one of the most pivotal matches in WWE history in a weird way.
So Cena and Kidman get jobbers entrances. You know already they're going to lose. Angle and Benoit are already getting nose to nose with each other before the match starts. And early on, it's essentially the story of they get the heat on Kidman, where it's essentially a game of one-upmanship, where Angle is doing stuff and he's showing off to Benoit. Benoit tags himself in and tries to do some stuff. And this is allowing Kidman and Cena to get a few shots in and get a few early opportunities until Angle and Benoit start working together and they start really laying into Billy Kidman and just hitting tons of German suplexes, backbreakers, all the stuff that you'd expect from them.
Yep.
You move on to eventually Angle and Benoit try their first double team move, which is Angle. I think it was Benoit sending Angle into the corner to try and essentially just splash into Kidman. Kidman moves out of the way. Angle goes flying straight into the ring post, and then Kidman hits an enziguri to Benoit. Kidman then makes the Cena gets a hot tag. Eventually, he runs wild, hits Fisherman Cradle on Benoit. Angle tries to break up the pin, but Cena moves out of the way before he can do that, and so Angle just splashes down on Benoit instead.
That was a goofy splash.
Yeah, it was it's a guy who's just trying to make it as obvious as possible that I'm about to hit my partner here instead.
Yeah.
Kidman makes a blind tag at this point and hits the shooting star press on Benoit, but Angle just about gets in just before the 3 count to save the match for his team. Benoit backdrops Cena out of the ring. Kidman blocks a powerbomb into the X Factor, which is essentially like you never try a powerbomb against Billy Kidman because that's what's going to happen to you.
Exactly.
Angle blocks a springing bulldog attempt into an angle slam, and then he applies the ankle lock. Cena tackles him out of the way, but at the same time, Benoit tackles Cena out of the ring. Benoit then applies the crossface, and because he's the legal man with Kidman, when Kidman taps out, Benoit and Angle win. It was a very good match.
Very well done. Kidman's underrated. I feel comfortable saying that at this point. He had a great match with Angle on the road to SummerSlam. This match was fun. And yeah, I wish Kidman could have done more.
Post match, they get nose to nose because Angle believes that Benoit was the guy that knocked him off with the ankle lock rather than Cena. But they don't actually come to blows, even though they could do because the match was over now.
Yeah, but gotta be careful because she initially said no touching at all, so she's not even sure of the ruling. So
Yeah.
they want to be careful.
Now, the reason why this match is so pivotal is that this is the last real match for a long time where John Cena is a babyface. So he doesn't officially turn heel here, but next week, as part of when we'll obviously be reviewing in the next episode of SmackDown, he has a match against Billy Kidman, and he's very much not playing the babyface anymore. So,
And after that, we get the biggest star in WWE history. So that worked out well.
we move on to Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman arriving in the arena with an unknown woman.
I wish she was still unknown.
Heyman asks a production member to ensure the ring is clear for them as Lesnar is coming out with a very special guest. And so they head out to the ring. Before we see them in the ring, we have a Matt Hardy Desire video package.
Yeah, this was weird.
Yeah, it talks about what Mattitude is and why that makes him the best, because he's blessed with something that makes him better than anyone that no one understands but everyone wants. And then they show a replay of the brawl from earlier in the night.
Because Matt Hardy is blessed and he has that attitude.
I mean, this Matt Hardy character is just so good. I forget how good this Matt Hardy character was.
It really is. I wonder what would have happened had they done this in an era where, cruiserweights could just be world champion.
So we have Lesnar, Heyman, and the mystery woman walking to the ring. Already, I'm getting serious Claire Lynch vibes.
Yep. It's funny now that you say that, even in the looks department almost.
So Heyman talks about Lesnar breaking Taker's hand, yet Taker is still backstage talking about Hell in a Cell. Heyman says that he can't answer what kind of a man the Undertaker is, but Tracy can. So this woman's name is Tracy. She goes to start talking, but out comes the Undertaker immediately. He goes running after Lesnar and Heyman, who escape outside the ring, but then Tracy gets in the Undertaker's way. Tracy says that Taker has lied to her and slept with her for 3 months, and now she knows he's married with a pregnant wife. So essentially, she's accusing Undertaker of having an affair with her.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
She says that she never watched wrestling, which gets a few boos from the crowd.
That's funny.
And that she'd agreed to never take their relationship public because she knew that he was a famous personality.
I enjoy that she still gets in the "you bastard."
Yeah,
it's such a Vince. It's like, you hear the word "bastard" and you're like, "Oh, that's Vince."
yeah.
But,
she says she hopes that Sarah's watching and that because Taker's lied to them both. So she's basically playing the card of, I don't want to do this to you, Sarah, but he's the asshole in this equation. He's the one who's been cheating on both of us.
Yeah. I wonder what she asked about his neck tattoo. I hate this, Callum.
Yeah.
Fucking hate it so much.
Taker then says that he has no idea who Tracy is, but then Tracy slaps him in the face before walking out.
We're still in an era where he could just blast her with the cast.
Yeah, he could have done that, yeah, but Lesnar just smirks as they walk away from the stage. So, do you want to know more about Tracy?
Of course I do.
So, Tracy Darley is an actress with 52 credits listed on IMDb, mostly in minor roles in film and television, with some more prominent B-movie roles and soft-core thrillers.
I bet.
She once also had the claim of being Playboy's most photographed lingerie model.
All right, so that starts the question of where do you think that they specifically found her?
I assume she came highly recommended from a certain Hugh Hefner.
I imagine so. Maybe they were recruiting Tori. So listen, yeah, I like that Tracy. Send Tracy our way. We'll send you Tori.
Do you want to hear some of her acting credits in some minor roles?
Of course I do.
So she appeared in Back to the Future 2,
Interesting.
Beverly Hills 90210,
I can see it.
Pacific Blue,
Oh, wow.
Curb Your Enthusiasm,
Awesome.
and
I would watch that.
and probably the most notable of all, the Scorpion King.
Okay. So maybe that's where they found her.
Yeah, I mean, Rock was just about filming that in this point in time, so maybe she was already cast there and thought, hey, Rock, just send one of your extras that our way and maybe we'll
Yeah. Oh,
make say
you
something.
got an extra? Yeah, let's use her because that was a WWE film, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a WWE. Yeah, I believe it was a WWE film. I think it
Yeah.
was the
So they were
first
like, "Hey,
one of the
listen,
first ones. Yeah.
sweetheart, you want to be a TV star? This is your big break."
So Lesnar, Heyman, and Tracy then walk backstage until they're stopped by Stephanie. Heyman says that they're leaving, but Stephanie says they can't because Lesnar now has a match. Because Jamie Noble is no longer available due to being thrown out by security, he will be teaming with Tajiri tonight in the Tag Team Championship tournament against Edge and Rey Mysterio.
Now I have a question.
Hmm.
There's clearly a cut here before the slap.
Yeah.
Was that do you think that was initially there? Or do you think that was like post done and then edited for the network?
Well, you think that maybe the first slap wasn't good enough.
Well,
Maybe
no,
they did.
that slap was absolute dog shit. So I'd hate to see if there was a slap that was worse than that.
Well, it
But
makes me feel like they thought, okay, fuck it, we'll just go with that one off. The first one just doesn't go well. I don't know. Maybe she said something that couldn't be broadcast or something
yeah,
like
like
that. Or
maybe he
said
was just
something.
like, "Listen, bitch," and they were like, "Oh, hey, that's too far." Like,
Yeah. There's a multitude of reasons, but that obviously is the advantage of having a tape show.
absolutely, and we've seen that many times on this journey.
So Heyman refuses, saying that Lesnar is already WWE champion and has a match at No Mercy. So why would he be competing for the tag titles at No Mercy as well? Stephanie says that she won't allow anyone to ruin this tournament apart from that one security guard who can just like
I know,
throw members
fire
of
the
that thing.
security guard.
So Taker will be banned from ringside. So if he interferes, Taker loses his world championship shot. So that satiates Heyman and Lesnar, makes them feel like, okay, might as well do it if we're not going to get attacked.
Tracy throughout this whole segment has like this perfect, like almost like she got it immediately. Like I get it, I'm a heel now, and like I can look like a bitch. I don't know, very very interesting choice to build to the Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar in a Hell in a Cell. We bitch a lot about modern day builds to a Hell in a Cell, but this is not good.
No, it's just it's way too melodramatic than it needs to be. We move on to, again, there are only 4 matches on this card, and they decided, hey, let's do Billy Gunn versus Devon Dudley.
Not only that, but it's the super masculine Billy and Chuck now with a new theme song, a slightly edgy Titantron, and I don't know. This just felt very weird to me because I didn't recall any of this Billy and Chuck theme song
You know
before
why?
watching the show.
You know why you didn't know anything about this one before the theme song?
Because this is it.
Because this is Billy's last match before his long-term injury that keeps him out until 2003.
Amazing.
Yeah, so Billy and Chuck repackaged with a new look, new theme music, all that other stuff, and then Billy gets injured on a house show next week, and so Chuck is now left on his own.
Yeah. Why is Farouk just in street clothes? Or
Ron
he's
Simmons,
Ron Simmons this
yeah,
week.
Ron Simmons. I think you'll find.
Jesus
They're
Christ.
very specific about saying the fact that he's now
What's
Ron
happening
Simmons.
here?
I don't know. Maybe just like I guess it was the idea of like, oh, he can't be Farouk anymore because that's Farouk and Bradshaw, so he has to be Ron Simmons instead.
He was in the Acolytes gear for the first time in like
Yeah, I
3
know.
years last week. What happened?
We still have the same gear, but he's just Ron Simmons now.
I guess so.
Maybe they should have put him in his gear from like old WCW time.
Yeah, I think we should just put him back out there in the blue helmet. Farouk
So
Assad, all the way.
so surprisingly, there's no heat for this match.
Oh wow, you mean that people aren't into this?
No, there's at one point there's a few nice spots, like there's a nice hip toss neck breaker by Billy at one point. Simmons then clotheslines Billy on the floor with the referee distracted. Cole says that he's interested in this match on commentary, and then corrects himself, saying that he's interested in my Devon and Simmons are partners instead, because even he couldn't bring himself to feign interest in this match.
I like 2002 Michael Cole.
Long heat segment by Devon with no crowd heat. Massive flapjack to Billy at one point. Billy then hits the one and only, but can't make the pin because that's the one and only is the transition spot from the heat to the babyface comeback. There's some polite clapping for Billy's comeback. Billy's tripped by Simmons going for a Faymaster, so Chuck then takes him down with a super kick that misses by about 10 light years.
Yeah. I'm very glad that Michaels is about a month away from coming back and ending all super kicks for a while.
You think that when Farouk Ron Simmons took that sort of thing and just thought, yeah, I'm not actually going to take this at all, so I'm just going to fall over when the kick just comes anywhere in my vicinity.
Yeah, we're working, brother.
He probably said to Chuck before the thing started, if you actually touch me at all with that super kick, then there's gonna be consequences
I'll
for
beat
it.
you for real, yeah.
Yeah. And so Chuck decided, yeah, I'm just gonna miss by quite a distance here. Billy then counters a saving grace into the Faymaster to win, which is odd considering the fact that it's Devon and Ron Simmons that have progressed in the tournament, and yet they're losing a singles match here to the team that they defeated in the tournament.
Yeah, very strange. I wonder if they were just going to go with Billy and Chuck moving forward, who were, again, called the greatest tag team ever by Stephanie McMahon a month ago.
Mm.
And it just seems so weird. Like, they get generic music. They look like they want to go to a Sugar Ray concert together. There's no more connection here. The connection is that they faked being gay, I guess. But that's okay because now they're straight and they're huge baby faces.
Or not judging by the sound quality in this match. Not exactly huge baby faces at this point.
Oh, fair.
Undertaker is on his cell phone to Sarah, explaining what Lesnar and Heyman are up to with Tracy, but Sarah is clearly arguing with Undertaker, and for some reason decides, yeah, I believe everything that Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman said about you.
Yeah, that seems about right.
So then we have a segment where Chavo runs up to Chris Benoit backstage holding his eye, saying that Angle attacked him and Eddie from behind. He leads Benoit to a blackened room where he holds, and then Benoit goes in, and then he holds the door shut, and there's crashing and shouts from the inside. After the noise dies down, Chavo opens the door, and after a few seconds, Eddie Guerrero comes out wielding a very dented steel chair. And and then they joke about how Kurt Angle got the job done.
Very strange to me that this is the route they went, but it works.
Yeah, so the idea they're obviously trying to do is, because they know they're going to be facing Benoit and Angle in the semi-finals of the tag team tournament, they're trying to sow more seeds of discontent between the two of them by making it seem like Angle attacks Benoit in a dark room before their match. And so that will mean that Benoit will turn on Angle in the match or won't appear with Angle, and it'll make their job a whole lot easier.
As always, though, and I know I'm using too much logic here, but you could also just watch the show.
I love that recently on was it an episode of Dynamite where they had that big showdown between MJF and Jericho,
and they're just like, I watched the show, and it's like,
yeah,
okay, good. Like,
yeah, some people actually watch the show they're on. We cut to Tori leaving her locker room in a robe when her father is standing outside the locker room. She says that she'd feel a little bit weird about Al watching her out there in her lingerie.
I'm glad.
So she says that she'll see him for dinner later on. Tori starts walking down the corridor towards the ring, but then Dawn Marie arrives to speak to Al. She asks for his opinion on her bra for the contest by just revealing her thing. Gives him a kiss on the cheek before leaving, saying that he's just a sweet guy. There's some sort of Twin Peaks joke here, but I don't get the reference. Obviously, the Twin Peaks are her Twin Peaks, but I haven't watched enough of that show to really know what she was trying to get out there.
And then Taz makes a joke about hoping Al knows where to put the key, and it's just like, okay.
I know I haven't got to that point yet. That's after the lingerie contest.
No, it's before.
No, because she hasn't given him the key yet. The
I'm
key to the
pretty sure
hotel.
it's before. I don't know.
No,
I could be wrong.
no, yeah, we'll get to that side of it, but we actually have the lingerie showdown. So Taz shows off a Divas Undress magazine, which has Stacey Keebler on the cover. So it's all of the photo shoots from they did to supplement the Divas Undress special they did a couple of months ago. Yeah.
Good lingerie contest. Like, as these go, we've seen a few of them at this point. This is probably the best we've seen.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, as much as we appreciate the fact that women's wrestling has evolved so much, and this isn't women's wrestling anyway, but it's just a case of
It's like, listen, if you're asking me to judge a lingerie contest, this is the best that we've seen so far.
Yeah. Let's put it this way: it's two extremely hot women in extremely revealing lingerie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to say like super thumbs up to make me feel like that, but this is what you would watch at this point in time. Because like Tori comes out in a white robe and she's like giving some serious like fuck me eyes to the audience. And
Yep.
she's really good at that sort of thing. I mean, obviously, like I'm hoping that none of them would like jump the barricade or anything like that. But it's just a case of she's got the very seductive look down.
Yeah.
And Dawn follows in her black robe. Taz says the audience will once again be the judge, like they were for the bikini contest. Then there's some cheap porno music playing as Dawn and Tori strip into the lingerie. Dawn trips into this ridiculously revealing black and red lingerie set with like garters and a thong and all this other stuff. Taz then jokes that that would be a touchdown in baseball.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Tori somehow goes even further, revealing like this white teddy that's cut down the middle completely, so just essentially just revealing her whole chest pretty much.
It's fantastic. Just a great use of 2002 divas.
Crowd obviously goes for Tori to win. This time, instead of Dawn offering the handshake and like using that to slap Tori, Dawn offers the handshake and seems a bit more, I guess, considered about this one now. And so Tori just like rubs her hand through her hair and shrugs Dawn off and walks away. She's not going to fall for that trick again.
Yeah.
So we have backstage. Al is waiting for Tori to get changed. When Dawn Marie approaches him again, she says that she wanted to congratulate Tori on her win. She then shows him the Divas Undress magazine cut to her section in it, which then has the hotel room key attached on that point. She says that she can return the magazine to her tonight at room 604 in the hotel. So
now,
clearly
is
an invitation.
this the same number that they used later on?
No. I can't say for certain because it's not like I have it etched in my brain or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure they used a different hotel number. We'll figure it out anyway. It'd be pretty lame if they decided, we have to use the number 604. I don't even know what the reference would be. Surely it'd be like 609 instead. It's like lol 69.
We had the answer to the question that nobody ever asked. What if porn had long-running storylines?
I wonder if Dawn was staying in room 604 of that hotel.
She might have been.
Because that would have been really dangerous information to give away then. If I just let people just go. Maybe some person just watched that.
I'm sure somebody had to.
Yeah, just watch that. Okay, I'll go to that. I mean, they didn't actually say who the hotel was, I guess.
I mean, that some weirdo checked every hotel in the area,
though. Then we see Heyman and Lesnar walking backstage with Heyman offering quick advice about how to deal with Edge and Rey Mysterio, which I thought was not a nice touch. He's actually like giving like guidance to him as like an agent would do.
Yeah, I don't think they played enough with that dynamic.
So Lesnar says that he asked Heyman for his phone because he has to make a quick phone call, and then he calls up Sarah. We find out, just like mocking her about the stress that she must be under. He returns a phone to like a gobsmacked Heyman, who then bursts out laughing about that because he's just like, yeah, we're just pushing all the buttons right now.
Yeah, Brock Lesnar, one thing I like about Lesnar, he was never scared, except for some reason, the line is always drawn for Lesnar at Bill Goldberg. But outside of Goldberg, he's not scared of anybody.
And then for some reason, they then replay basically the entire Tracy segment. Like it
Yeah.
was a good that was a good 3 minute long replay. Just like
It's good TV, pal.
just why waste my time? So we move on to the main event of the show: Brock Lesnar and Tajiri versus Edge and Rey Mysterio. So it's funny to start off with because Tajiri's in the ring and he's like bowing to Lesnar and stuff like that, shaking Heyman's hand. But Lesnar and Heyman just don't want to be anywhere involved in this. This is so beneath them. But then you start off the match, Edge and Lesnar start off, which was a good sign. Like this was a sort of thing where they gave a light tease to the idea that Edge might fight Lesnar at some point for the WWE Championship.
I think that they were. It's not at some point. They're building up to
Rebellion.
Rebellion. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is a match where it is Lesnar and Heyman in a handicap match against Edge. So we may or may not be reviewing that one for the Patreon ones. Because it's a UK one. There's less pressure to do that one, but if we find time, we'll be able to just put that one up as well.
What's the date on that?
I believe it's either really early November or late October. I think it's either a week or 2 weeks after No Mercy.
Maybe. Let's see. Hey, listen, if you subscribe to the Patreon, you'll know when it's up on the feed. If we don't get to it, we don't get to it.
Yeah. But basically the match is pretty good. Start off with Lesnar catches Edge in a crossbody, but then Mysterio, who's made a blind tag in, dives onto both of them and sends Lesnar down. Lesnar launches Mysterio into the air with his kick out though, which is again the cool spot, like this really small baby face on top of the monster heel, and the monster just launches them in the air. Mysterio pretty much lands on his feet from the kick out. It was really,
good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, nice spot. Mysterio attempts to slip through Lesnar's legs, but Lesnar catches him, and then he tries to hoist him up, seemingly for an F5, but then he drops Rey Mysterio in the process, and so they just improvise a few shots to the back or something. It's odd to see a Mysterio botch at this point, though.
Yeah, but maybe it's a new worker, new energy. He hadn't worked these guys before, so.
So we have a Lesnar press slams Mysterio, but then Tajiri decides bravely or stupidly, depending on your perspective, tags himself into the match so he can take on Mysterio.
Fighting spirit.
Yeah, he dominates Mysterio for a while. He applies the tarantula. He misses the buzzsaw kick, but then immediately drop kicks him in the face. Taz then talks about how he'd love to see this match be a one-on-one match, even though that match happened back in August.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen them do way more.
Oh yeah, they would do. They would do way more, but probably not by the time that we finish this journey anyway. I know they had a pretty, not a lengthy one, but they had at least a short feud in 2003 over the Cruiserweight Championship.
That's good.
So Mysterio eventually escapes from Tajiri, makes the hot tag to Edge. Edge goes crazy on Tajiri. Lesnar shows no sign of intervening and trying to save Tajiri until Edge knocks Lesnar off the apron.
Yeah, Brock has no dog in this fight. He's already WWE champion.
Yeah. Edge tries to clothesline Lesnar, but Lesnar withstands it, and then he eventually knocks him down with a flying forearm. Tajiri misses a kick and hits Lesnar instead, so we know what his fate would be after the match. Double drop kick sends Lesnar to the floor, 619 to Tajiri, then Edge hits a spear and gets the victory. So it was a pretty short for a main event of SmackDown.
I mean, all of these matches I think are less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, very much so. It was the best match was clearly the other tag team match of the night. So, but yeah, what happens is essentially this is kind of just the prelude to what happens afterwards, which is Lesnar throws Edge around ringside, catches Mysterio midair, throws him with ease into the ring from the floor.
Great.
So again, great. It's nice to have a really small guy and a really powerful guy that can just throw him around willy-nilly. He hits an F5 to Mysterio, which was probably one of the most elevation he ever got on an F5.
I would say definitely the most elevation. I think maybe Zach Gowen gets higher, but not by much.
And then he hits an F5 to Tajiri as well for good measure because they lost the match and he can do what he wants. He's Brock Lesnar. Tajiri kicked him earlier, so he's just getting his own back. But then Undertaker arrives and they brawl for a little while, with Taker sending Lesnar flying out of the ring with a car shot, which leaves Lesnar slightly busted open.
Yep. And the whole story of the match, again, it's Brock and Taker, but there's so much emphasis on this cast and this broken arm situation, and it's so intense.
So yeah, that's the end of the SmackDown one. So there was some good stuff, but not a lot of in-ring action and a lot of talking surrounding it. The continuation of the Dawn Marie, Tori, Al Wilson storyline, Tracy's involvement in this Undertaker Brock Lesnar feud. Yeah, just a lot of words.
Is it safe to say that, like, this is maybe the worst? No, not the worst, because obviously there's been worse nowadays, but like this week in WWE television strikes me as a very experimental. We need to be more like a soap opera. How many soap opera angles are running right now? Kane,
Okay,
you're a
yeah,
murderer.
Kate. You got Katie Vick. We've got the. It's not a love triangle essentially, but it's like the evil woman trying to steal the innocent old man from her
And
daughter.
actually, it's just a even bigger angle because she just wants to get into the pants of the girl, and
Yeah,
it's like,
we have like Undertaker supposedly cheating on his wife, a woman that he supposedly doesn't know. Yeah, there's a few soap opera angles just fanning around, but then again, like that was a lot of what was happening in the Attitude Era as well.
not to this extent. Like this, in the Attitude Era, it was more like trash TV. Whereas I feel like this is the beginning of, we have a team of writers and they've all worked on The Young and the Restless, and we have to make wrestling more like a soap opera because this is bad.
Yeah, I think it was a mixture of like some really good stuff, like the stuff that Angle and Benoit was doing was really good. The brawl between Matt Hardy and the Undertaker to start the show was one of the best brawls that I've seen in a long time. So yeah, there was some good stuff. I like the Eddie Guerrero Rikishi match, but again, there's the really awful stuff alongside it. But I can't deny that it does keep your attention. This episode of SmackDown.
Yeah, I think that this is the beginnings of, like, hey, the wrestling's great. The stories are trying way too hard. We're in for a rough rest of October.
Well, before that, we'll obviously we've got the next episode coming up, which will be the go home show for No Mercy. So a bit more of the Tracy involvement in this storyline, what happens in the final build up to Undertaker and Brock Lesnar. We have the semi-finals of the Tag Team Championship tournament between so it'll be Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit versus Los Guerreros and Edge and Rey Mysterio versus Devon and Ron Simmons. And
Yep.
then on as well as that, we also have a match between Jamie Noble and Nydia.
Oh, a match. Is that what we're calling it now?
Oh, it is a match.
Oh, good.
And then the other side of that, we also on another side of that, we also have Tori Wilson and Dawn Marie actually in the ring with each other, fighting each other
Why,
as part of
why,
that.
why
Yeah,
would they do that?
as part of a mixed tag team match, which sees Dawn Marie teaming with Matt Hardy against Tori Wilson and Rikishi.
We also have Kidman, John Cena,
Yep,
and
Cena's first match really as a heel.
that's right.
So yeah, there's a
So
lot.
much going on.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to look forward to, and then that's obviously will lead into our review of No Mercy, which will be on the Patreon exclusive on the, I believe that's the 20th. I believe that'll be the date that will be on. So make sure you stay tuned for that. If you're at the $10 tier in the Patreon, then you'll be seeing that one. If you're any higher than that, you'll also be seeing it. If you're in like the Pick Your Poison tier or the uh, mailbag allowance one, then yeah, you can just mailbag forgiveness one or anything along those lines, you can definitely watch that episode. So hopefully you enjoy the extra ones as much as you've enjoyed this one. There's other ways that obviously you can support Smark Out Moment in terms of the monetary side of things, whether it's like the applause or membership on YouTube, Redbubble and TeePublic for all your merchandise needs. But money's not everything. We just like supporting every single way that we can get it, whether it's you're reading the articles on the Smark Out Moment website, just checking all the weekly stuff out, seeing all the reviews, everything along those lines. You're following us or liking us on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter. You're joining the Mega Maniacs. You get involved in the conversation, or all of that engagement just is very good to us.
Now, I agree with that statement completely, Callum, but I will say money is not everything, but even if it's just $1 to the Patreon tier, it means a lot. Tony has a wedding he's preparing for. So while money is certainly not everything, it would certainly help out the boss man.
Yep, need to pay for Tony's wedding. I've got, I don't want to talk about it, but I've got like a small operation coming up. Not really, but I'm just like trying to, buy things,
Hey,
things.
look, I mean, Callum's got an operation.
Yeah, really
Tony's
bad
got a wedding.
operation. Yeah, really serious operation. Like they're removing my second spleen. That's like it's not
That's
really.
right. That's
Yeah,
right. So he's got a second spleen. So you got to do something about that, and then maybe help Tony.
I mean, Tiny Tim needs a chicken for Christmas as well.
That's
So there's
true.
like, yeah, there's just like Christmas is coming
There,
up, guys.
there is so much we could use. So please go to the Patreon, go to the merchandise
Rob's gonna
shops.
need money soon when Florida just goes
Oh
up in
yeah,
flames. Yeah, so like
that
he's
that's
gonna.
actually gonna happen, guys.
Yeah,
So yeah, so there's always a reason to check out the Patreon and the merchandise shops, but we do appreciate all the support.
yeah.
And you know, as always, check out what we're doing. Check out Tony on all of his platforms. Check out me on Twitter at DudeFelice. Check out me on Fightful and WrestleZone and all the podcasts that I'm doing across the wrestling news spectrum. And I'll let Callum round us out.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. And yeah, that's ends episode 16 of the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast. And yeah, we will see you next week for episode 17, the Go Home Show Before No Mercy. And yeah, get into all that stuff when we see you then. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.